Hey everyone, welcome back to Get to the Pop Film Club, the official podcast. I'm your host, Katie George Grace. Oh, I just full named myself. Disgusting behaviour. I hope we're all doing well. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I don't think this will be a very long episode because I'm filming it on Wednesday, which is apparently the hottest day that England has ever had in the whole wide world ever in their life. So I'm currently sat in as I said in my last episode, I'm in an attic room, so it's sweltering. The light is literally beaming on my window. It's 35 degrees. Yeah, not great, but it's not going to probably be a long one from me unless I do what I'm doing now, which is rambling. So that wouldn't be great, but I'm so hot, and I'm hoping everyone else is coping in the heat as well because it's genuinely diabolical. I was in London last night because I'd gone to see Harry Styles, and the Jubilee line, oh my god, avoid it if you can, like the plague, because it is so hot. I came back this morning, well, I say this morning, my train was meant to be at 10, got cancelled, then the second one got cancelled, and then I had to basically go to East Croydon to get on the train that was going my way. So that was really fun. Usually what is a hour and 15 turned into 2.5 hours for me, which was really nice, and I can't even claim the blooming delay repay thing, whatever. So yeah, it's been a long day. I did have managed to squeeze this in because I'm going to Bath tomorrow as well. So I actually genuinely have no time. I feel like, kind of when you start something up and you're like, why have I done this to myself? But this was literally the only day I could squeeze it in, and I'm out in 45 minutes, so this does have to be a quick one. I hope we all enjoyed the film. I actually did really enjoy this one. I really just loved the sort of like coziness of it, whimsy. It was predictable, do not get me wrong, but it was just nice. It was nice that I felt like I didn't have to really concentrate, which sounds really bad. Like, when you have films where you can just enjoy the view, I felt very much like that with this one. I just thought it was a bit long. Anyway, but we'll get into my thoughts and opinions. One of the main things I wanted to know about this film was how accurate it is to Steven Spielberg's life. And speaking of Steven Spielberg, oh my god, I can't even say his name. It's the heat. It's the deliria. One thing I want to know about you in regards to Steven Spielberg is, what is your favourite Steven Spielberg film? I am such a sucker for Ready Player One. I love that film so much, and I feel like it doesn't get a lot of good rep. I feel like a lot of people don't like it, but I think for me, I just think the like CGI animation style is incredible. I think the plot's fantastic. Love the world it's set in. I mean, I've read the book as well, and I really did enjoy the book, but the film is really different to the book. I don't know if that's partly why a lot of people don't like it, but I just think it's fantastic. It's my favourite Spielberg film, probably closely followed by Hook, but I think that's a nostalgia thing. But yeah, leave in the comments. I want to hear what your favourite Spielberg movie is, and I'm just curious to see what everyone's thinking, because I feel like this film's quite different for him. I mean, I'd say it's more on the lines of like E.T., with that sort of, it's family, but then there is like that magical element to it. Anyways, like I said, I wanted to know how true this film was in relation to Spielberg's life. And it's funny because they call this a semi-autobiographical movie. The amount that's in it, though, that they said, actually, yeah, this is true, this happened, I would have just called it an autobiographical movie. I don't know. I feel like semi is just too less of a word for how much of this film is actually very accurate to Steven Spielberg. Oh my god. Right, okay. I'll call him Steven, I think. I feel bad for first naming people I don't know, but I think I'm at a point where I'm so tired that I just can't get my head around the word Spielberg. Anyway, so a few little fun things about this film is that he did have three sisters, and he often cast them in his films that he made in his early childhood, and he used to dress them up and like Sammy does in the film, like the mummies and stuff. And I think he did say in an interview that they were quite hard to work with, which is so funny. But he said about his parents that in an interview he said, "I miss my dad a lot growing up, even though we were together as a family. My dad was really a workaholic and he was always working. My mum didn't parent us as much as she sort of big sistered us. She was Peter Pan, she refused to grow up." I think that is really prevalent in the film. I love at the beginning the shot where they're talking to Sammy and they're saying about cinema, and the dad's very sort of straightforward thinking, says it how it is, and then it just pans over to Mitzi and she's like, it's a dream, it's magical, it's and I just thought that was perfect. Is it perfect way to set them up, and it also kind of feels like that they're establishing this sort of yin and yang relationship they have, which is the thing that makes their relationship. Obviously, technically it does break their relationship, but I feel like it was nice because it kind of evened them out a bit. But I think she just had such a desire for the magic, which he just didn't give. I'm really sorry. I've noticed there's a spider on my tripod, so I'm just gonna go bat it away. Yeah, boy. Oh, I don't know where that went. Probably went on my sock. Oh well. Anyways, the house. So the production designer said that the house was basically a replica of Steven's childhood house. Like the whole thing, to the floor layout, the style of the rooms, was all based off of sources that Steven had given to the production designer. And Mitzi, who played Sammy's mum, obviously Steven's mum in conjunction, she wore outfits that were essentially replicas of his mum's outfits when he was younger. They would copy images that he had given the costume people. And she also wore some of Leah, is his mum's name, some of her jewellery that was lent from his sisters as well. So again, I think there is so much accuracy with this. I feel like they should have just embraced it because of the how far they've gone with a lot of these accuracies. You might as well just commit to the bit. Also, my hat, I'm sorry. I put the hat on today when I was travelling back, and I'm one of those people, I can't take a hat off once I put it on because I know as soon as I lift it up, it's going to be absolute mess under there. So it kind of also feels quite directorial. So I thought, oh, it's kind of funny. I'll wear a hat for this one because it's all about filmmaking. So a lot of the footage when it came to the camping scene, that again was all recreation of the footage that Steven Spielberg had shot when he was younger, and especially the moments where Mitzi is on a tree, she's like swinging on a tree trunk. That is genuine footage. They showed it in a documentary that I did watch. You can watch it on YouTube and I'll link it. But there is footage of Leah Spielberg, she's on a tree. If you'd shown them quite quick, just in moments, you probably would just think it was the film. That's how accurate it was. He also filmed a lot of that camping footage in the film himself, but he did a lot of it on set, which was really cool to watch, especially watching the behind the scenes of it. He talks a lot about how he feels like now he's learned too much, that there were times he'd look at something and be like, I want to do this angle and this angle, and he thought, no, because the version of me in 1961 wouldn't have done that. It needs to be accurate to the time, that the age that he was at and how he was originally filming it. He said as well in the documentary that he feels as though, as a filmmaker, life can just kind of spill out in your movies as you make them. And he said this is obviously the most personal movie that he's made to date, but there's always been elements of his life in his work up until this point, which I think life is always going to influence you in that way. But now I think the fact that he was given the opportunity to essentially recreate that and really pour his inspiration into it growing up, I think then there's so much more stability to all of his ideas. Not saying that it's not been like that in the past of his movie making, but I think sometimes when people do make films that they've either, say, like written the book of, or that's their life, you can always tell, and I think they're the films that stick out, that have so much more heart to it than other movies do. Like, for example, I think of The Perks of Being a Wallflower. The fact that the author also directed and wrote the film, and you can really see the intricacies of both shining through both the book and the movie. And I love that. I love the book, love the movie. So ticks from me. Anyway, back to this movie. There are so many details. Like, a lot of the plot is based on his life, like the bullying in regards to him being Jewish and his relationship with a Christian girl and things like that. Like, that's all true. And even the relationship between Benny and Mitzi, again, it all happened to him. That must be kind of crazy to recreate something actually as traumatic that I think that can be for a child to recreate it in your adult years. I feel like I'd love to know how he felt about that. I don't know if he has done any interviews. I might look into it more. But to recreate something as personal as that, and also to the extent that they recreated it to be as accurate, I think, I don't know. I feel like emotionally I wouldn't be able to cope with that, so I don't know how he managed to do that either. During filming, Steven, he would forget to call cut, and then they kind of implemented that in the movie. The moment where Sammy is watching the actor walk away and he's just so entranced by it, and then you got the guy going, "Are you gonna say cut at any point?" Because the guy's still walking, and then he kept walking anyway. It was really interesting, I think, to watch the making of a movie in a movie. And I think is I've never seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I've never seen Hail Caesar. I think that's kind of similar. So I definitely will look into those because I do like the sort of like perception being pulled out when you can kind of see everything going on. But then I'm also a bit of a weirdo for going to film sets and seeing things from the outside perspective of what the camera did. Especially that's also a reason why I'm going to Bath actually, is because I want to go to the Royal Crescent, because they obviously filmed a lot of Regency thing. Well, they filmed Bridgerton there, but also they filmed Oliver Twist there, and I want to just recreate Who Will Buy by myself in the Royal Crescent. It was John Williams that did the composing for this film, and this was actually to celebrate the fact that they had spent 50 years in collaboration with each other, which I think is so special. And I think I didn't even know it was John Williams that was doing the music for this, but you can just tell. He has such a distinct style that feels so magical and heartwarming. It really did feel like Harry Potter meets Jurassic Park meets like just his whole span of everything he's done just kind of melded into one, and it moved me. It may have moved me very slightly. More towards the end. I think I picked up on it more towards the end when things were getting more emotional in regards to the family. Also, John Williams was 90 when he did this, and this was his last movie, so he's retired since this film, but 90, and he's still putting out corkers like this. Like, I think those two just work so well together. The music supports the screen and the screen supports the music. I think they just have this incredibly well shared mind and can recognize each other's vision really well, which is really important. I don't think you get a lot of people like that that make films these days that have such a bond with their composer. So onto the reviews, and I said this would be quick because I'm so hot. I'm literally melting here. Like, I keep wiping my face. I didn't put any makeup on for this. I usually would, but I know for a fact there'll be nothing left by the end of this. Anyway, so Kat gave it 3.5 stars, and Kat said the music was beautiful. Agreed. The shots were incredible. Agreed. I just felt it was a little too long. I kind of saw the affair coming, so it wasn't really a shock to me. Some great acting in there, but the standout for me was Michelle Williams. I completely agree with you. It did feel a bit too long. I feel personally the bit that could have been booted, and I feel really bad saying this, was the bit with the uncle. The irony is this actually, again, genuinely happened in Steven Spielberg's life. He only met his uncle twice, I think it said. So I get it, but I think movies like that where it's like you got a whole life ahead of your son, scenes like that I do kind of want to rip my eyeballs out. They go on for too long, and you just kind of need a small moment that sticks rather than a whole spiel, because it then just drags. And that was the only time I was checking the time of how much of this movie I had left to watch, and I think it was still like over an hour, and I just thought, why is this happening now? Give the inspo chat when it's a breaking point, you know what I mean? But that bit I wasn't too fond of, but also the affair. I wish I wish there was a bit more subtlety when it came to plot twists, I guess you could say plot twists, but I don't like it when you can see it the moment that they just linger on that character for too long or linger on that object for too long. You're like, I get you're trying to set this up, you're trying to tell us all that this is going to be important, but then I just spend all my time guessing, and I don't want to guess. I want it to hit me and go, oh no, wait, I get it now. I don't know why they couldn't have just included moments with it happening sort of in the background. Kind of like when his dad looks at the photo and sees both of them in the background. Why couldn't you have done that cinematically? Because then you're watching those moments, and then when you bring us back round to it, I just hit my hat, and when you bring us back round to it, then we go, oh my god, it was right in front of our eyes the whole time, we never noticed. And then it also feels more like from the perspective of the character that is also realizing this for the first time. Every review that I'm about to read mentions Michelle Williams. She just is so kooky in this film, and I think she has so much depth to her character. It really makes you as an audience member think, like, what is her brain going through, like what is her thought process throughout the movie, because moments you do think like, why are you reacting like this, but then it'll come then later and you think, oh, I get why she reacted like this, and da da da. But she just understood the role and understood how to stand out but not take away from anyone else. Beautiful. Right, Ella says 3.5 stars for me. Visually, it is really beautiful, and the 1960s setting felt so natural and believable rather than overly stylized. This was actually quite interesting. When I was researching, the costume designer said specifically about the prom scene that he wanted to go with, I think he said it was a dirty pastel colour scheme, because he didn't want it to feel overly stylized. He wanted it to feel natural but sophisticated, and he also kept all the guys in their dinner jackets because, again, he didn't want it to kind of overcomplicate the screen. He wanted it quite laid back but still to like pop on screen. I think with the pastel kind of colour palette going on, that's the thing that it pops, but it doesn't make it feel like you're watching like Grease, for example, because those kind of colour schemes, it is a bit like, whoa, theatrics, you know? And I agree with you on that, definitely. The casting of young Sammy was perfect and really pulled me in. It genuinely felt like watching someone from that time. Michelle Williams was a standout for me and completely stole every scene she was in. Agreed. Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, I think you're right. Gabrielle LaBelle, who played Sammy, he said he did put a lot of work into this part, especially because he had to learn a lot about the way that cameras worked. Watching the documentary, there was a little clip where Gabrielle LaBelle, he takes the film out of the camera and he puts it in his back pocket. And then Steven Spielberg just goes, I would put it in my front pocket because otherwise I'd sit on it. And I just liked that because it's like, again, it's small little details that sometimes like actors who are researching for a role wouldn't always think about, but then it's little things that can come from someone who's lived that or knows the story. I love it when actors and directors have that bond as well, and he clearly wanted to do a good job for Steven, and I think he definitely did. Back to Ella's review. I did find it a bit confusing at times, but I really liked the idea of film shaping truth and reality. I especially liked how Sammy accidentally captures things he was never meant to see through his camera, which changes the way he looks at filmmaking completely. The bullying storyline was also really interesting, especially how he edits his bully into this completely different, heroic, confident version of himself on screen, showing just how powerful film is in changing perception and not just reflecting reality. Yeah, fantastic. Love it. The ending with John Ford was a perfect way to end. It feels like Sammy takes in the lesson about framing and perspectives in that moment, and you can see it reflected in the final shot, which feels like Spielberg showing how that idea from his own life shaped the way he started seeing the world as a filmmaker. Yeah, I agree. I think it was a fantastic ending. I think it's like, I mean, it was a good ending. What am I trying to say here? It was one of those sort of running into the sunset. It literally was running into the sunset. But, you know, it's obviously it's not going to be like up to the modern day. But yeah, it was a nice moment for sure. It's one of those things, it's just full circle. And you can't hate those endings because it is the satisfaction that you get. And I remember obviously when we watched The Lobster, so many people said they didn't like the ending because it just was so up in the air. Whereas I think when you get given an ending that is sort of back to the beginning, sometimes people are a bit like, oh, well, now I've got nothing to think about. So it's interesting to see which kind of ending people do prefer. I think consensus is people prefer rounded endings. Personally, I prefer one where I don't know what's going on, because usually then I'll read like loads of theories about it, and it's kind of funny reading those. I think the whole, just how the camera can both capture the truth but also false hope, that again, that like underlying theme of it all worked really well. I really did like that. Did I find some of the family parts at the beginning a little bit boring? Yes, I did. I think it just, sometimes when you have to do the exposition of family dynamics, they can be a little bit laborious, but apart from that, I think without that, it wouldn't have worked as well. So, yeah. And then last review, Rosie said, I haven't seen this since it first came out, so it was great to watch it again. I've given it 4.5 stars, as I think it's such a well-made and beautiful film. Yes, it is predictable at times, but sometimes that doesn't matter, particularly when the story is so strong. The acting from the whole cast is exceptional, especially Michelle Williams, which I know has already been said, but it's true. You're right. And completely believable. Showing a passing of time can be a bit clunky, but the Fabelmans does this brilliantly, which really adds to the overall viewing experience. Michelle Williams' character was so fascinating, and I was completely invested in her development. Her relationship with Sam was so well portrayed and written, and I loved how they were both as similar in their own ways. Yeah, actually, yeah, I agree with you on that. The only reason I haven't given this 5 stars was because it felt it lacked depth in some areas. At times, I felt like we were being told the story via a list. This happened, and this happened, and this happened, etc. That did not detract from the fact that it's a brilliant film and such a good choice. Yes, it is formulaic. It's you don't escape that, sadly. It is beautifully shot, and there is enough sort of emotional depth to it that makes you want to keep watching. But it is like da 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 and da 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 and this and then this and then this, and it does kind of follow a very natural wave. But I guess you could argue it's about filmmaking. It's about filmmaking at the start. So I guess to follow a kind of standard structure would be silly not to. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that, because yeah, I guess it has to be reminiscent of the past, and that's kind of how films were. So I think there's definitely a coziness to it because it is quite formulaic. I think there could have been moments where I was allowed to guess some things, but you don't really get that opportunity with this film, which is okay. That's not everyone's cup of tea. People don't always want to be guessing things while they're watching a film. So I think this works for the kind of people that just kind of want to be told a story, and that's completely fine. And I think he does this superbly well. So no qualms with that. I think personally for me, I'm going to give this film 4 stars. It's so fantastically shot. It's so incredibly accurate. There's so many minute details that I think do make the movie what it is. And Steven Spielberg is a goat. So I don't think, even if he did technically produce some trash, I'd still watch it. I'd watch paint dry if it was filmed on a 8mm camera by him. I think it was a really good film. I'm hoping the next film, which is, the vote has closed for that, by the way. I'm not going to say, because I don't know, just in case, I don't know, suspense or whatever, but I think there's definitely an audience here for a certain genre, which, we could definitely explore that more in the future as well, if that's what people want. But we'll see. We'll see after the next week and see what we're all thinking. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm sorry if it is a bit on the shorter side. I actually have no idea how long I've been filming for, but I need to go have a cold shower. So, yeah, love you all. I hope you have a fantastic week. Stay safe in the heat. I don't know what point we'll be in the heat wave at this point, but thank you very much for listening, and I will see you all tomorrow with the next movie reveal.